Welcome to the Altered Call podcast. Today I want to discuss what a Christian witness can look like. God wants us to be seen by other people, but what specifically does He want them to see? My name is Pillischafske. I believe that our eyes deceive us. I believe that anonymity is vastly underrated, and I believe that you were uniquely created to reflect God's glory in the world. Recapping the framework. As Christians, we are meant to bring glory to God generally through our purpose and specifically through our various callings. The enemy wants to prevent this by forcing us to stumble in any of an infinite number of ways. Stewardship is the application of our current knowledge and ability to defend our lives against that enemy. The discipleship path is an optional framework that you can use to build and maintain standards that relate to self, family, vocation, and church. This is meant to create a baseline of stewardship from which we can explore specific callings of God. We will start by establishing minimum standards strong enough to ensure that we are being faithful and on which we can build our desired lives. We will maintain these standards until we are given a specific calling of God which we will prioritize accordingly. Today I want to talk about a spiritual witness. We were designed by God to reflect His glory in the world. We were meant to leave our homes not only to work in pursuit of providing for our families, but also to be seen, to be witnessed. Unfortunately, I fear that we have traded being seen by man in exchange for reflecting God's glory. When people look at you, what do you want them to see? Culturally, we spend a lot of time and energy attempting to manipulate how we are perceived by others. We want to be seen as successful or capable, or at least look like we fit in with our preferred group. Online, this is all exaggerated to an extreme degree. Not only must you be seen as some or even all of those things simultaneously, often, in order to get any attention at all, you must find a niche in which you are among the very best. I am convinced that attention is the primary currency of our age. The rich, the powerful, the young, the beautiful, more often than not, will trade away the blessings that they have in order to be perceived a certain way, in order to have the eyes and attention of the world positively focused on themselves. I think that this is a large part of why the rich and famous often become obsessed with social causes. They want people to see them, and at large scale, like them. This is often good for their careers, but it also feels very good to the ego. You see, if lots of people are looking at me and largely enjoying whatever it is that they see, then I must be a likable person, maybe even a good person. Chasing the algorithm, or attaching your brand to the latest hot topic, will increase your likelihood of being seen. If you can then tailor your message to the preferences of those whose attentions you have captured, then gradually they will rally to your side. Just gain a small hint of attention from the world and then ensure to give the people what they crave. In theory, it's easy enough, but I worry that we lose ourselves for time spent looking too deeply into the mirror. My fans want me to have this opinion on things. Maybe I've had that opinion all along. The algorithm wants me to speak about this topic for the week to ensure that I can be found in the highest number of searches. Let me generate thoughts and opinions accordingly. The social and political tides are starting to shift. Maybe I, too, should consider an appropriate evolution. What is it that the world's attention demands of me? How do I ensure a positive reception by my fellow man? From a Christian perspective, this is all nonsense. But we are called to witness to others. And what is a witness if no one notices? Aren't we supposed to witness to the world? Doesn't that entail attention-seeking in one way or another? I think that depends. How much of the world do you think you are responsible for witnessing to? Callings are unique to the individual. Your skills, preferences, opportunities, and abilities are all a unique combination, and what you do with those gifts will be uniquely judged by our Creator at the end of all things. I am convinced that some people will be well equipped to witness to the masses, while many more will go almost entirely unnoticed, living out a quiet and anonymous life. Use what God has given you appropriately. But I fear that too many of us are tempted away from our uniqueness in pursuit of generating a disproportionately sized witness. By conforming ourselves, partially or fully, into the image that the world wants to see, we lose pieces of ourself in the process. God gave us each of our gifts in appropriate measure to live our lives. He wants us to keep them and to nourish them to their fullest. If we trade some or all of these gifts in order to be seen by others, if we conform our beliefs in order to be more easily accepted by the masses, we betray the spirit of who we were created to be. And far from being transformed by our faith, we are ultimately torn apart by our ambitions and doubt. In the episode entitled Passion, I talked about accepting and leveraging your passions. I ended the episode by saying that a dispassionate witness doesn't draw in enough attention to be worth looking at. But on the other side of that coin, a conforming witness, maybe even one interesting enough to garner the attention that we all seek, doesn't reflect God. Instead of reflecting the uniqueness with which God created us, by submitting to the demands of the world's attention, we are simply reflecting back what they want to consume. Instead of reflecting and manifesting God's glory, we settle for reflecting man's glory back at himself. Often we go to other people, or worse yet, the internet, seeking the comfort of strangers. We want to feel liked, to feel informed, to feel connected to something bigger than ourselves. In doing so, we have a strong preference towards things that are affirming, because they make us feel good. If thousands of other people are consuming the same content, then they must share the same ideas. They must be of similar quality to us. And in the crazy and polarized world that we live in, it feels good to wrap ourselves in a warm blanket that reflects our preferences and beliefs back at us. Fortunately and unfortunately for the Christian, we are not called to be comforted by the world, or haphazardly reflected versions of self. Instead, we are called to be comforted by God, and we are called to reflect His glory and comfort to those around us. This becomes incredibly uncomfortable in the short term because it requires that we forego being propped up and supported by images that inflate our ego. No matter how glorious and amazingly we were created, we were still created. Any glory that we are capable of manifesting belongs entirely to the God responsible for our design. So what should someone see when they look at us? I would argue that they should see fruit. A devout follower of God should have appropriate fruits of the Spirit in their life. The Bible lists these as love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Now everyone has each of these to some degree or another, but as believers we are called to have them in vast disproportion to non-believers. I find in observing the world at large that these things are in perilously short supply. This is beneficial in that a slightly above average amount of each should be easy to nurture into existence. And while not everyone will necessarily notice or appreciate these gifts in you, over time many of the people that you interact with regularly will. How do you know if you are bearing sufficient fruit? People who are seeking God, or are relatively newer to the faith, should look at your life, at the way that you interact with the world, and be attracted to it. If this isn't the case for you, then I think that you need to seriously reconsider the effectiveness of your walk with the Lord. Maybe you are a new Christian and haven't yet developed fruit. Maybe you've been stuck for 40 years in spiritual infancy. Maybe you've traded your fruit away for the blessings and attention of the world. Maybe you have fallen prey to a false gospel. Maybe you are just too busy surviving to give God the time and attention that He deserves. Regardless of our excuses, it isn't a lack of potential that is our problem. We have all been given exactly what we need to generate the witness that will be required of us. In the second ever Christian group that I facilitated, there was a man that felt that he was particularly poorly equipped. He didn't make much money, and despite his age wasn't particularly far along on his career path. Having suffered for many years with intense psychological issues, he'd been in and out of mental health facilities and wasn't able to gain the traction of his peers. From a worldly perspective, he was far behind the curve, and in the online world of success and ego-laden trophies, he probably wouldn't fare very well. But then you hear his testimony. About 10 years ago, he regained his mind along with his spirituality. Since then, he has been diligently working and volunteering in many of the same facilities where he was once a guest. Given his unique experience, he is able to understand and bond with the residents in ways that other staff, no matter how experienced or credentialed, simply cannot. Given his unique authority and unflinching confidence in his God, he is then able to boldly proclaim the benefits of Jesus to anyone that will listen. Now, taken out of context and compared to other people of his same demographic, his life isn't that impressive. But taken in context with the exact experience and opportunities that he has been presented with, he is able to have a massive impact on the people in his life. Maybe the internet will never find him and love him, but he has an incredible witness to those that live life alongside him. For this reason, the group was willing to listen to his testimony frequently, because as tempting as it might be to look past his limited accomplishments, you can't possibly look past a life well lived. No one really cares how much money you make, or how many achievements you have. And if they do, it's only so that they can compare themselves to you, making idols out of all involved. They either want to think of their own achievements as more meaningful or worship your accomplishments as unattainable. This foolishness benefits no one. It is egotistical nonsense that generates warm, fuzzy feelings that must be endlessly stoked before they dissipate as readily as they sprung to life. There is no meaning in any of it, and the attention that we give and gain in the process distracts us from the one thing that actually will bring meaning to our lives. Each of us is fearfully and wonderfully made. We have been created with the intention of reflecting our Creator's glory, putting His creativity and mastery on full display for all to see. None of us are the full manifestation of that glory. We cannot be. We are simply one piece of sand on a beautiful beach that taken together shows a more complete picture. By focusing on individuals that we deem to be more glorious than others, we miss the bigger picture. By aspiring to be a larger focus than we were intended to be, we trade away the uniqueness that reflects our Creator. And by assuming that we are insignificant in the face of our obscurity, we devalue the glory that we were intended to reflect. If you want to have a strong witness, it starts by accepting who and what you were created to be. Seek to understand yourself. Ask God to show you ways that you can grow and develop in your ability to bear fruit, and refuse to hide yourself, your true self, away from the world. Being unique is challenging in a world that demands conformity and competition, but it is the only thing that adequately reflects our God. It isn't your job to determine who your witness is designed to impact, or how many people, but it is your job to genuinely connect with other people while maintaining what makes you unique. You are important, but you aren't the whole picture. You are called to witness, but not to everyone. Fully accepting yourself and then exposing the best parts of yourself to others in your orbit is all that is required. And that's good, because I promise that is hard enough. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Altered Call Podcast. Feel free to like and subscribe if you're finding value exploring these ideas. You can reach me by email using alex@alteredcall.com, or you can visit the website for additional information.